We're going to talk draft props. Solak and I are so far down a all right, on a if you were like creating, let's say that there's a rabbit hole, right? And you start at the top at the surface level, and that's 1. And 10 is like the core of the earth. How deep are we in this draft prop rabbit hole at this point?
Okay. I almost bet Sam Howell to go in the first round yesterday. So wherever that is, that's gonna be like inner
That's a
core
12.
at the
That's a
least,
12.
right? Yeah, where I was like, a team could really talk themselves into Sam Howell in the first round, which is just a horrible sentence, but also a reality of this draft. I thought because there was less certainty, more chaos in this draft, I was going to bet less, and instead I've just bet more. And I
Right.
bet more long shots and more like exactas than I ever would in the past, right? All these like long odds plus 500 and whatever. But it's because books are leaving those hanging, implying a degree of certainty in the top guys that hasn't been appropriate for months now, right? Like the certainty in Hutch at number 1 has never been correct. And then it all trickles down from there and being like, who's going at 2? Thibodeaux's falling, Hamilton's falling, whatever. Like it's all still up in the air. And so there's a lot of long shots that we just got to hit a couple and we'll be good. But it is a scary sheet to look at when you're like,
I was going through my pendings last night, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh man, did I really make that bet?" All right, let's start with one really quickly, but because I am on the hook for Travon Walker at 1, both financially and professionally. My reputation, and if Ike Ekwonu goes 1, I'm fine with it. It helps my school. It helps. I can survive it monetarily, but I definitely prefer Travon Walker by a long shot. The only thing, and we were talking about this like right before we went live, I just don't want Hutch to go 1.
Yeah.
Like, as long as Hutch doesn't go 1, because I have a ton of Hutch over 1.5. I also have Hutch at 2, 3, 4, and 5, where like it'll be fine if Hutch doesn't go 1. You are an Eagles guy.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Peterson is now the Jaguars coach.
Good coach.
Good coach. I think he's a good coach.
Great coach.
Yeah. The buzz today, and we're talking on Tuesday, April 26th, is that Doug Peterson might have, quote, the juice to make the pick at 1. I don't buy that because I don't think that an owner, even one who, based on Albert Breer's column, where, Shad Khan's more involved, more hands-on, I don't believe that an owner would retain a GM and then allow that GM to help hire the coach and then completely, for lack of a better phrase, cuckold the GM by letting the coach make the number 1 overall pick in the face of what we've been told the GM wants. So to me, it's still Walker. But if the idea that Peterson has the juice is true, it could be Icky at 1, right? Or where do you stand on that?
I think if you have to ask/report 48 hours before the draft that the head coach is calling the shots, he's not calling the shots, right? When the head coach is calling the shots, we know from like either from a report 3 months ago that's like team now hiring a general manager envisions a larger role in decision making for their head coach, or we just at this point we know that like Ron Rivera calls shots in Washington.
Correct.
When they hired Ron, they didn't really have a GM, and also it's Ron Rivera. He's been around. You know what I mean? Like John Schneider.
Do you remember when Byron Leftwich wanted the Jaguars job?
Yeah.
And he wanted to bring in his own GM?
Yeah.
And they were like, no.
Yeah.
Like,
they've told you who the guy is there, right?
Correct.
And the default should be that draft guys are GMs are the guys calling the shots on draft day, right? Like that's what we should expect. So you look at a place like the Lions at 2, where there seems to be a split between general manager Brad Holmes and head coach Dan Campbell in regards to who they might take it to pending who's available. If it's a 50-50 coin flip and I have to call heads or tails, I'm probably going to call the GM side just because when it comes to draft day, usually that's the guy that's in charge, right? Is the guy that has that role. And so when it pertains to the Jaguars at 1, I very much expect it to be Walker. I would not be surprised if it's Icky, just because that's been the other guy that people have been fighting for in the building and things can always change. I would be very surprised if it's Hutch, because all of the Hutch buzz over the last couple months has been ownership. And ownership always has that that, break glass in case of emergency, red button, we can just take this
Of
thing
course,
over.
you own
But
the team. You could do
yeah,
whatever you want.
but for us to have such a clear moment on Monday where everybody was like, Hutch is out, indicates to me that ownership said to general manager and to head coach, you guys can make we want Hutch, but we're going to put this ball in your court. And I would be surprised if they took it back.
Yeah, you can't, as an owner, undermine both your GM and your head coach. Like that doesn't you fired Urban Meyer after a disaster, like the most disastrous hire in the history of NFL football. You retained Trip Baalke, who obviously submarined Urban with the whole punch to kicker story or kick to kicker story. And then you let Baalke hire Doug Peterson, and then you're going to undermine both of them by forcing them to draft a guy that they don't want. No, not even the Jaguars are that dumb.
You're going to be picking. Oh, I wouldn't go so far as to say that.
Fair.
But you're going to be picking one overall next year if you do it. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? And that's the thing, is dysfunctional franchises stay dysfunctional. So assuming rational actors is always a little bit scary. You always have to be careful when you're like, the team will do the smart thing in the NFL, because that's not always the case. But in this instance, reading the tea leaves, following the dominoes, it seems to me like Hutch, who's the owner's guy, is off the board. I expect it to be Walker, and if it's not Walker, it's Icky. And I'm certain that if it's not Walker, it's Icky.
Yes.
That they don't. Icky is their guy at tackle, and if it's not Walker, it's a tackle, which is Icky. So those are your two left for the Jags, and so some books are still hanging Okwonu at a decent price, but other than that, I'm content to just sit on the Walker money I have now, and if I have Hutch, I'm still okay.
And I would say too that as of Tuesday and on into Wednesday and Thursday, because I think the price is going to go up. You can bet Hutch over at any number. Like we have a buddy in chat who says that once you have factual information regarding related to the draft, the odds technically become infinity.
Yeah.
Right.
Hutch shouldn't be scared of juice.
Right. Do not be scared of juice. Like he's like, oh, it's minus 285. I can't bet that. Yes, you can bet that. If you have the financial means and or the credit, you can bet Hutch overs because he's not going one. Two, however, a different story. And you and I were dealing about this last night. And no one knows what the Lions are doing. Nor should they, I guess.
Right.
Hutch is the local guy, but you and I agree that doesn't I don't understand why that's a thing.
That meant a lot more when you didn't have private planes to go pick up players and bring them to Michigan, and the internet and other things that, technological advancements that have made locality not as important for NFL players.
Brad Holmes used to work for the St. Louis Rams, and then he worked for the Los Angeles Rams. Like, why does he care about some dude from Michigan? I mean, you're not selling any tickets because he's from Michigan. The question becomes, is it Thibodeaux or is it, for me at least, unless there's some Stingley sauce action at 2, that feels aggressive given the way the Okudah pick is played out, even though it's a different regime. I feel like it's either Tibbs or Hutch at 2.
Yeah.
And I lean Tibbs, and you've heard the same thing I've heard, which is that the Lions like Tibbs. Holmes has visited him a bunch. And as we talked about previously, Penei Sewell is in their building. He was their first-round pick last year. They like him a lot. They trust him. He has probably given them a recommendation on KAYVON THIBODEAUX. And I would guess that he's not like, this guy's such a prick. He
and Thibodeaux are boys.
Exactly.
And even beyond the we played on the same team, we knew each other, we're buddies thing, Sewell played a direct opposite Thibodeaux, right? He went against Thibodeaux in practice, pass protection drills, multiple years, right?
Yep.
And that also matters a little bit because even more than just the personality thing, NFL teams have a big what's it like when he hits you sort of a thing. It's like you can watch him and scout him, but you want to know
look at people what he did to our guy.
Yeah, you want to know from people against whom he has played what it's like, what it feels like. That's a thing that matters to teams. So I think you have Hutch, Michigan sort of vibes over here, and the whole he's a big culture fit. Dan Campbell, Hutch could have played at any school, Michigan or otherwise. Dan Campbell would like the way that Hutch acts. He would like the cut of his jib. So you have that, and then you have Sewell with Thibodeaux and kind of the impression that they've got of him and that kind of background info. And even if those cancel out, let's say those are equal on both sides. I'm not sure they are, but sure, making a net neutral. Front office still likes him, right? From what I understand, the front office evaluated the 2 players with film and with analytics and with benchmarks and with guardrails and with personality, and they prefer Thibodeau. That's the side I'd like to be on because front office makes a pick. Campbell is a important dude in that room. Campbell's a big personality.
He's like the fourth voice at best.
Yeah,
when it
but
comes to that
we can't go so far as to say we on the outside have seen a lot of Dan Campbell pressers of him being like rowdy and rambunctious and funny, which means he probably makes the pick. Like that's too much of a mental leap for me. So in my opinion, if Hutch and Thibodeau are there, it's a slight lean to Thibodeau.
Okay.
I don't know what the updated numbers are because I'm not taking this unless something changes in the next 48 hours. I won't be touching this now. I got on it earlier with Thibodeau, but I'm not going to.
What did you get Thibodeau at 2 at?
I got him at plus 300 or no, plus 600. I got him at plus 600.
Plus 600 is very good. I think it's like 2-1 at best right now.
Yeah,
which I agree. I'm not taking Thibodeau 2-1 to go second. You're talking about I need more. I need a better number.
Yeah,
for that. Maybe you could do a Walker Thibodeau exacta.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, it's probably I don't know 5-1 at best.
Yeah, what I would prefer to do if I'm going Walker Thibodeau and building that out is I would prefer to get the third position in there with the Texans and then take a couple of different flyers